2A family, what's good with you? As always, fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes, it's just my personal opinion. You shouldn't take it as fact. You shouldn't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and hit that like button for me. If you aren't a subscriber, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and subscribe. I think you're going to enjoy the content. If you don't, you can always unsubscribe later. And if you're an existing subscriber, fam, you are my family, and I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. So look, fam, I was debating whether or not to do this video, honestly. I went back and forth. This is not a political channel. I try to stay clear of that. I find politics to be very polarizing, particularly at this point in time in our country. I feel like when you start talking politics, you know, kind of civil discourse goes out the window and everybody heads to their liberal or conservative bunker and just hurls insults at one another, and neither side listens to the other, so nothing can be gained from either perspective. But when politics kind of brushes into the 2A community, sometimes I'll tackle that. So we've had, you know, several tragedies over the last few weeks, whether it was the shootings in Buffalo, New York, whether it was the shooting of the school kids in Texas, whether it was the most recent shooting at the hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, and my heart and prayers and thoughts go out to all the victims and the victims' families. You know, I think their deaths were tragic. They were senseless. And I grieve for them. I really, really do. That said, I think that there's so many tragedies that take place in our country every year. And I often hear people say from the left that, you know, Americans are fanatical about their guns. And that may be true. You know, people may be fanatical about guns in America, probably because it's been inbred in the country since its inception, and, you know, encapsulated in the Second Amendment, right? But equally as crazy as the people on the left portray gun owners or gun fanatics to be, I think the people on the left are equally fascinated with them because they fixate upon them. And I'm not sure why that is, other than political expediency, because it is a topic they feel like they can get behind. And in that instance, I think they're exploitive in that way. And a lot of them will come right out and admit, you know, never miss an opportunity to exploit a tragedy, right? I don't think that's cool, because I think they're disingenuous in their discussion. So whenever one of these tragedies takes place, inevitably there's a rallying call for gun control. And I really don't understand it. So I'm just going to give some stats for context, because I think part of the problem is nobody speaks from context. They throw out random numbers, and then they, you know, and without context, the numbers sound huge, right? If I told you, for instance, and this is just as an example, by way of example, if I told you that my mortgage was $200,000, I'm just throwing out a number or whatever, right? Somebody might hear that and went, $200,000, that's a lot of money, right? If I told you that the average mortgage in California was $1 million, all of a sudden 200,000 sounds super reasonable, right? Right? So everything needs context. You can't have the yin without the yang. And my problem with people on the left is they only give you the yin and they never talk about the yang. And because of that, you don't have context. And I think they do it intentionally. I think they do it purposefully. And so I want to have an honest discussion about it. Now, I did a long episode on gun control where I gave you all the facts and all that kind of stuff. So I'll put that down in a link below and you can check out that video. But briefly, I just want to talk about it because of these recent tragedies, it's come back up again. So again, I just want to give some context to the conversation, maybe get people who are pro gun control some facts that maybe they just don't know because they're never given these. And so I'll start by saying this. What you need to know right now is there's more guns in this country than there are people. Right? Significantly more. There's more guns in the country than automobiles. People fixate on the number of gun deaths that we have in the country every year, and I'll put that down there. But they don't speak honestly about them, right? They'll tell you that there are X amount of gun deaths every year. We need to get out there and we need to do something. We need to take away the guns. But they don't tell you that 65% of all gun deaths approximately that occur in our country every year are suicides. They're suicides. They're not from robberies or break-ins or mass shootings. They're suicides. And if you think, well, if we took away the guns, then we could eliminate suicides, you should know that one of the other major causes of death in our country is suicides, not by guns. So people would just find another means to do it. And so when I look at that, when I look at suicide by gun being 65% of the gun deaths in our country, and then suicide by other means also being a major statistical factor in our country, one leads me to wonder, why are we so focused on the guns and not on the mental health crisis we are obviously having in our country? If people are out there taking their lives, 65% of all gun deaths are suicides, and many, many more suicides from now. Why do so many people why are so many people in the United States suicidal? I think it speaks to lack of mental health care available to them. And so we need to be talking about that. I don't know why we're fixating on guns. Other forms of suicide, people hang themselves. I don't see people saying we have a rope problem. People overdosing, intentionally overdosing. I don't hear people saying we have problems relative. We should ban all pills. I don't get that same vitriol, right? We have more deaths in our country every year from drunk drivers, and I don't hear people saying, "Oh, we need tougher automobile legislation. We need to ban automobiles." I don't hear that. I don't hear people saying we need to ban alcohol. We have more the main killer of the human race right now is stuff like hypertension and heart disease. Okay, I don't hear people say we need to ban fast food. And so I don't know why we're so fixated on guns. I really don't. People get, there's an equal infatuation on the left and the right with the AR-15 and mass shootings. Well, mass shootings and use of AR-15s represent less than 1% of the gun deaths we have in our country every year. And any death is tragic, but again, where's the context? Why are you so fixated on 1%? On less than 1% of the gun deaths that occur in our country every year. Vast majority of gun deaths take place in our country every year are handguns. But I don't hear you rallying to eliminate handguns because you know it wouldn't be popular and you can't get it done, so you're fixating on what you think you can get done. The vast majority of mass shootings are also done with handguns, not to let the facts get in the way of a good story. So again, I just implore you guys out there, as people start, ratcheting up the noise around gun control. I just want to give you guys context. Again, 65% of the gun deaths in our country are suicides. The vast majority of the other gun deaths are from criminal activity. They are, and what I mean by that, they are typically in urban areas where people live on top of one another. It's very dense, where there is lack of quality education, there is a lack of upward mobility, there is a lack of quality health care. And in these kinds of environments, what typically happens is gangs sprout up, drugs sprout up, crime sprouts up. These people are not going down to the local FFL to buy a gun. So all your background checks and all your this and all your that, it was told to me a long time ago, there's two things you can't legislate. You can't legislate crazy and you can't legislate criminals. If people have mental health issues, you making a law that impacts gun is not going to stop them from doing whatever it is they're going to do. If they're not using a gun, first of all, in a lot of these instances, even if you had exactly what you're asking for right now, it wouldn't have stopped it, right? But even if it would have, then they would have tragically done something else. They would have used an automobile. They would have used a bomb. They would have used a knife. They would have did other means, because when you're not healthy mentally, hurt people. And so all the gun control in the world isn't going to do anything for that. The other piece of the coin is when you have people who are desperate, who have nothing to lose, who feel like they are trapped, and they don't have access to upward mobility. And so they become criminals. Criminals don't care about your laws. By definition, a criminal doesn't care about the law. By definition, a criminal is comfortable with breaking the law. So all the laws in the world are not going to stop them from illegally acquiring handguns and doing what they're going to do. You can't legislate crazy. You can't legislate criminals. And so, again, fam, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm listening. Look, if I could give up all of my guns today, and I can be 100% assured that there would never be another mass shooting, that there would never be another, gun death by suicide or other means, I would do it. But it's not the case. It's not the case. The only people that are affected by gun legislation are the people who are willing to abide by the laws, and those weren't the people you're trying to regulate anyway. And so when I look at the history of gun control in this country, dating back, to the very beginning, a lot of that, and not really trying to bring a racial component to this, I'm just speaking facts. A lot of that was to prevent freed slaves from getting guns. That was the evolution of it. And it kind of continued along that line. So now in 2022, 50 years or so after what we came through in the 60s and 70s, no, I'm not trying to disarm myself. I don't want anybody trying to disarm me. So that's my take on it, fam. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments. But again, my heart goes out to the victims and the victims' family and the most recent tragedies. And I do agree that we need to do something. I do believe that this needs to be a call to action. But the action is not gun control. The action is really, really doing something to address the mental health of our country, to make mental health accessible to people, and to help guide them to get the help that they need. I think we need to address the growing socioeconomic gap that's taking place in our country, and all the internal things, access to education and healthcare and and upward mobility and job opportunities and growth that people in these inner city communities where all of this gun violence is taking place, so they have some alternatives. That's what we need to be focusing on, not fixating. It's not the gun, it's the person. It's the person. We need to heal people. And until then, all the gun legislation is not going to do a thing. Chicago has all kinds of gun legislation. How is that working there? How is that working there? California, same thing. New York, how is that working there? So it doesn't work, is the bottom line. Unless you're going to take away every gun from every person in the country, it's impossible. It's impossible. There's more guns than people. So no, you're not going to round up every gun. It's not going to happen. That horse has long left the barn. So I think we need to really focus in on the cause of the problem and not the tool that's being used. All right? Until next time, fam, as always, take care of one another and peace.